Welcome to Business Prowess with Raphael and Dr. Andrea. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Raphael is the founder of 5 unique shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller is an award-winning international keynote speaker, best-selling author, and CEO of the Red Carpet Connection Publicity, Publishing, and Talent Agency, and CEO of IgniteYourRelationship.com. Known as the Dream Maker, she makes visionaries' dreams come true, bigger than they ever dare to desire.
And thanks for being with us. Today, it's just me hosting. Sifu had to be out and about doing some amazing things that we'll get to hear about later. And we have 2 amazing guests. So we're just going to jump right in and talk about relationship power and resilient growth, which are things that you guys know that I absolutely love. And we have with us Jennifer and Devin. And we are just going to jump into just a nice conversational talk about things that make relationships work and how we are able to grow and be resilient. Who wants to jump in?
Okay, I'll jump in. Well, why not? Yes, well, sometimes those are two totally different things. But I come from a business aspect, so I'll talk about the relationship of businesses and being resilient. And one thing I found, especially if you have partnerships or you're looking to go and network, is that a lot of people don't understand the going into something with the what's in it for them mindset. When you're talking to clients or you're trying to get people to understand, your value that you want to put out in the world, and how you can help them, whether it's a partner or a client, or even if you're doing something in a relationship, it's really what's in it for them. We tend to get very focused on what we know we can do and the me mindset, rather than what's our value on this planet. What's our divine purpose and responsibility to ourselves to show up in this world, and how can we help others? And I think when you reframe it like that in your head, then all of a sudden it just changes conversations. People become a lot more open as you're someone that's here to help and provide, and it just becomes more expansive.
Excellent.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Let me jump in on that one. So my first core principle that we teach is always add value. So I feel like we're already super aligned. And when we say always add value, it's not what products or services do you sell. It's how do you solve problems? What resources can you provide? And what connections can you make to help other people? And so when you go into an event like that, it opens up the whole room, because you can network with everyone. There's value in every relationship. Every person you come into contact with, you can solve those problems for them. And at some point, maybe you get to talk about yourself, but that's actually not the priority. And it makes networking and relationship building so much more powerful.
Yeah.
We were in a situation once where there was a group of us in a mastermind, and we had a new person, and you guys, I'd love to hear your feedback on this when I'm done telling the story, is when, you have somebody new and they want to show up and they want to be seen and heard. And of course, they're going to have some ego in that, because they're trying to exert themselves and to be accepted in the world, instead of just realizing that their natural ability will come out in their conversation. And each time that we would have a conversation, the way that they would put something in, it was so funny. I kind of felt like they were, I called them me sticks. Like if they were a marshmallow at the end, it had so many sticks in it, like you could go on any side of the fire, because it was all about, toasting their marshmallow, and so to speak. And I think people don't realize that if you go into a mastermind or a group or a large group of people, the people who often make the most money are the people that say the least, or even if they're talkers, they just are just talking to share information, and they don't really care what you think. Like often I've worked for a couple billionaires, and some of them are so blasé in how they blasé in how they act or behave or how they dress, you'd have no idea that they even had money because of how they show up, because they just don't really give a shit. What are your guys' opinions?
Well, I think that it's funny. You can tell people who are new or who are really, there's a difference between, wanting people to know who you are and actually getting what you need out of the networking, making sure they know who you are and what you do, and you get their information, right? Which is why we're all there, right? We get that. And then the people who'll turn everything into, in fact, at ABC company where I'm the person from, we're doing this, and this. And, oh, really? Your dog did that? Well, you know what? That happened at ABC company where we do this, and this. And you're just like, we get it. We get that that's why you're here and what you want to do. But let's see if we actually like each other and that we have a human connection rather than coming into it with the what's in it for me instead of them. Yeah.
Devin?
Yeah, just ditto all that. I work with a number of offices and you would have no clue what they do. And that's how I approach stuff, other than you can see it on my shirt. But it's like, I want to know about everyone else. And so what I tell people is just be a journalist, right? And as a journalist, you don't have to relate. You don't have to say, oh, let me connect dots and explain why that is value to me too, or I've done that too, or like all of these validation where you're kind of stealing the moment. You don't need to do that. You can just ask questions, really listen, and you'll be more memorable that way, because everyone else in these environments tends to be pushing themselves, their ego, their content, their expertise. And so just ask good questions, take good notes. The art is, and what you already said, Jennifer, is get their contact info, and then how you follow up and the language you use during the follow-up. That's where it's your moment to shine and really stand out again differently. So yeah, stop running in and trying to close a deal on the first date, right? You got to meet them, date them, and then you can get married.
Yeah, find out what synergy you have. Yeah.
In part of that conversation, I started giggling because I've always called it, I feel like it's a one night stand, if you relate it to relationships that are personal, is like, at a business meeting, they give you a card, they want you to buy something, and then like, they're never going to talk to you again, like, and
a real bad day.
Long-term relationships that there's give and take, and I've often suggested to clients that you might make a connection and no deal will be made for a decade, and then out of the blue something happens, and it might be the biggest deal that you could ever imagine. Has that happened for you guys, where that longevity has just been phenomenal?
Yeah, I've had it happen to me personally, and I've worked with people, because you have to think of what, and I know this is a tired term, but what type of relationship? Well, back in the day, synergy was the word, right? And now everybody hates that word, but really it's, when you talk to someone, you've got to think ahead of time. Okay, I'm going to talk to people and I'll never want to talk to them again. I just hated them. Okay, so that's one outcome. What's another outcome? Well, I could really like them and we could be friends. I could like them and I could refer people to them, or they could refer people to me. Maybe there's somebody who connects, they're a connector. They can connect me with other people. They've got a really big network. Maybe they could be a potential client. There is a lot of different outcomes for a conversation. And if you are purposeful and you actually write up, I'm going to think about all these outcomes when I'm talking to someone, and I'm going to enjoy the journey for each one of them, no matter what it is. And then, like Devin said, I'm going to follow up appropriately for what it is. You're already ahead of the game of what most people do.
Follow up. What do you think about that, Devin?
Well, so this is so fun. So I share this story of the $30,000 client, right? Close the $30,000 deal. But when you look at the chain of connections that led to that deal, the very first person I met, I actually didn't enjoy the meeting. We had a misaligned meeting, and this is kind of rare. Like, I really approach meetings very open, and I love meeting people, but it was a misaligned meeting. It was very like them selling. They were very much a taker, not a giver. There was not a lot of alignment, but treated the meeting how I treat every meeting, asked the same questions, followed the process, followed up, nurtured, made connections, added value, did the things exactly how you're supposed to do, even though it was a meh meeting. That sparked a chain of 9 connections that led to the $30,000 client. Well, in the process of those 9 connections, it led to 11 podcasts, 29 referrals, 1 event, and a joint partnership. And so the message there is, I think people often start nurturing relationships with are they a client? And Jennifer, I think you talked about it. Well, that's great. That's one bucket. But do they have access to your clients? Could they be a strategic partner? What does their spouse do? Their family do? What did they do before? Where are they going next? Who do they know? What organizations are they in? Where do they gather? Like, you don't know anything. So just show up curious. And that's where the gold is. And then treat every relationship the same way. Because again, if you nurture it properly, you have no clue what the doors they'll open. And had I not followed up because I went, that was a man relationship, I would have lost all of that opportunity that would have been gone. Right. So, stop thinking so short term and think long term, because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
I'm in a situation right now where I started this relationship with meeting a client. Oh, God, I think it's been 16 years ago. And I didn't see them as a client. They were just someone an event I was passing through because they were a connection of a connection. And their event was next to the event we were working and on the way to the other connection convention we were going to. And just really liked that person, started following them and have built a relationship over the years. And now are in a partnership, and then looking to see how that can grow, and the connection that has been made from that could be so promising for not just myself and the client, but for the world, for what this other person has available to them in their life and the things that are important to them. And so right along with that, Devin, I like to just meet people because I just want to meet them and know them heart and soul. Because if I don't know them heart and soul, I don't even know if I want to work with them. In the past, I would be too eager to work for them, people please, want their money. And often I felt, by the way, I also own a relationship business. That's how I started, my speaking career and being out in the world. So that's why I often relate things to relationships. But it felt very much being, paid for services, that exchange. It just felt dirty and crappy and icky because I was with icky people and I was like, I'm getting their money, but I don't really like them or something. Because there were people that I worked for that were very self-absorbent, and that didn't always feel good. And so, now to be able to work with really amazing people and with choice, and I don't want their money. I don't care if I would rather, if I don't trust them and like who they are, heart and soul, I don't even want to touch their money. I have no interest. And so being able to be free to not care is such an important place to be. And I hope people can be there, even if they have a desire for cash flow, that they'll find cash flow that has meaning rather than feeling like they're doing dirty work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think that that's important. I started out as a lot of people. I didn't want to go into fast food. So one of my first jobs was telemarketing and different things like that. And I had a sales career, and then I was a recruiter for quite some time. But what I found out, and this is across the board, every client I've ever worked with, no matter what industry you're in, the worst, most choosiest people in the sales process that make you chase them, or they don't want to pay. They want all these concessions. You're having to work for it. They'll promise you, I'm going to be the biggest client you ever had. I'm going to give you this or this or this. They're always the worst client. They take the most drain, and they're never live up to their hype and their promises. If it's like that and there's already that much, butting against you, don't do it. And I've worked in organizations where it's like, we're going to sell them all. That's a challenge to us. And salespeople are naturally, up for a challenge. That's the type of personality, salespeople are like, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to, I could sell ice to an Eskimo or whatever that thing is. And you don't want it to be like that. It's a relationship. It all comes down to relationships. You want to work with people who get you, who have a unique problem you're uniquely positioned to solve, and you can get them to an outcome that they're happy with. When you change the mindset from that, you're no longer selling. You never have to feel icky like you're a used sales car person, that the bad stereotype of that. You can just feel like you are in your purpose. And so when you change your mind to being relationship focused, in fact of, where can I fit in now or maybe later? And sometimes that's hard, especially if you're desperate for cash, right? It's hard to not just want to come with that kind of desperation to it. But if you can figure out a way to pull that out and just take as much as you can, then all of a sudden abundance just starts just coming for you left and right.
Nice.
Yeah, a quote that I tell everyone, and it fits Jennifer perfect with what you just said, is everybody wants to buy, nobody wants to be sold. And so we are taught to consume, like we're taught to spend money. Yet if you look at sales, networking, marketing, training, so often it's in these really slimy sales tactics that try to force people to buy instead of making it easier for them to buy. And so it's a me sales process, right? Not a you sales process. Looking at what do they need? What value do you need to provide? What questions do you need to answer? What alignment do you need to do? And then the other thing I say, Jennifer, to kind of your last part was don't have commission breath, right? People can smell commission breath on you when you show up to a meeting.
That's a good saying.
And you're sitting there going, you're trying to stay the course. You might even follow your script. You might use the best language, but that urgency and that eagerness to have to close this deal shows up and you're not going to close it. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But when you show up curious and you're just asking good questions and you're really focused on the other person and you're letting them navigate to a point of like, oh, wait, I actually need your product or service. Like, oh, fantastic. I would love to help you. Let me see if you're a fit. It totally changes the buying dynamic. And so everybody wants to buy. No one wants to be sold. Don't have commission breath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's a funny term. That
commission breath.
Yeah. I just want to resignate on that just a moment. It's just kind of funny. Give me an example of a situation where, because I do like the whole idea of, combining the resilience and but by the way, let's first do a definition moment here for you both. Would you both define what power means to you and define what resilience means to you?
Well, I think power is just what is ultimate security for me. And the feeling that you are very secure in whatever outcome and you feel like you are driving your future in your life. That you have come to the place in your life where you understand that you create your reality, right? Or you are the primary driver of what's happening in your life. And so whatever intention and action you put around what you've decided to do, you feel powerful enough to get to that. People who have ultimate self-control, or to me, are very powerful people. So I think of power as being very self-defined. You're creating your own future. It may work, it may not work, but you're going to get there eventually. You will fail forward, and resilience is part of that. You're going to fail, but you are going to fail forward. You're going to learn and you're going to keep on going. And so that's how I would define it. Those two.
Yeah, one of our core principles is control what you can control. And I think both of these feed into that core principle. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, right? Is they push things out in a hope, right? Which hope is not a strategy. We've all heard it. And so when you shift all of your efforts to the parts of this process you can control, right? How you tackle your day, how you manage relationships, how you follow up, the language you use. There's so many parts of the equation in business and in life you can control. Yet so often you attach emotion to things you can't control. And so if we go back to the buying cycle, right, you attach emotion to whether someone decides to write a check. Well, you actually can't make them write a check, right? You can make it easier. You can guide them down the process, but you don't know if time's right, money's right. You don't know what's going on in their life that might trigger them not to. And that's true for all parts of the journey, right? So often people are like, oh, I'm going to stop following up. They haven't gotten back to me. Well, like maybe they're on vacation. Maybe they had a family member. You don't know, right? So don't worry about them. In both words, I think it really comes down to that core principle for us of control what you can control. And so in everything you're doing, ask yourself, can I control a part of this? And if so, how do I do it in the best way possible to still show up authentic with other people in mind?
Speaking of other people in mind, let me share some information about how to meet with other people who have other people in mind.
Turn it up, let's go. Turn it up, let's go. Let's go. No time to wait. Bass too loud and the vibe too great. Let's go. Full on fire. Every move hit like a live wire. Let's go. Step in bold. No fear here, just hard to go. Let's go. Lights on blast. We don't hold back. We move fast. Hit the flow, we don't miss. Whole room lit like a first kiss. No cap, no stress, no chill. Just truth, emotion, and will. This is how we speak in steps. No script, just step. Every beat we turn it up and leave that silence in the dust. Let's go. No time to wait.
I love his commercials that he makes.
Yeah, I was just sitting there going,
I know. He's always got great music. In fact, I wonder if some of that music has any Theobald, who's part of that. He does music and acting as well. So, but however, Sifu stands alone in his ability to put music and whatever. By the way, Sifu is an amazing dancer. So, Sifu, if you're watching this wherever you are, know that I always put that out. If you have the opportunity to dance with him, Devin, do it. I'm telling you. and he's just so much fun. Obviously his skill in martial arts, you can feel that in his body, his stance and ability and control with every muscle, and how he amplifies that through dance is quite amazing. It's quite a skill. So give me an idea. Devin, you didn't get to answer this question, did you?
I'm good. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, okay, cool. You're fully capped. All right, cool. Because so what you guys don't know is sometimes you see that I'm looking and like, what is Andrea doing? It looks like I'm over here writing an essay, and it's because I write comments as best as I can. I don't quote you exactly, but I do the best I can to portray what you're saying during the comments, and so I'm looking down because the only class I ever cheated in school was typing. I look at my hands when I type. So there you go. All the other classes, every A was totally earned. I'm a good typist now, but I look at what I'm typing. And so I'll have to learn how to switch that. Okay. So Devin, what do you want to talk about that if you didn't get to say it today, you'd be like, oh, I'm so mad I didn't get to say that. Or talk about it.
I think language is important. And so I think we should go here for a second. It's something that I feel like people disregard, but we've talked a lot about how you show up and the questions you ask and how you follow up. What we haven't done is gotten like a little bit more granular. And so a good example of that, and then Jennifer, I'm going to guess that you're going to have good commentary here too. So when we follow up from an event, what I teach people is to use language like this. Hey, Jennifer, it was great seeing you at the event yesterday. I enjoyed briefly learning about you and your business. I'd love to schedule a time to learn more about you and your business so I can better make connections for you and help you. Here's a link to my calendar. I look forward to connecting with you, or I look forward to meeting with you. That language has nothing to do with what I sell, why I'm amazing, how I sell it, what my next offer is. None of that's relevant, because what matters is the other person wants to feel that you're showing up different and you want to add value to them. And if you do that, your likelihood of booking a meeting goes up dramatically. And so I think there's a lot of moments during the relationship building process where language specifically focused on the other person will greatly impact your results. And so, Jennifer, I'd love to hear, I'm sure you have some comments on language usage and
absolutely. I would say too, that is not natural for many people. They in fact, in younger generations have a real hard time with having a hard time with really getting out to people, right? Like how to be able to reach people on emotional levels. They're very text-based. They're very text. They use textees. They have a hard time with even the phone. Like, don't call me. I don't know what to say, right? And so I would say this is one of the areas I would say absolutely, because AI is the tool that we're all going to be using now. And this is where AI really just accelerates. I use an AI called Centra, and I love it. There's like 12 different AI helpers. They each have different names. I know what each one does now. It took me a while, but I'll say, hey, please, write me some prompts, and I want it to be connective. I don't want to push what I'm doing. I actually tell the AI the tone and what I want for it, and it gives me things. And this has actually helped me, with other things, because there are certain ways I'll approach people that it's not natural to my personality to do so. And so I will put in the prompt, and it helps me. And I've learned a lot like that. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, how do I do that? Or I think that I'm being kind and focused on them, but I'm not getting any feedback. Well, you can do it in a way. There's this fine line between just being very kind and nice and welcoming, and then actually asking for the appointment and getting, letting people know that there's a benefit and value to it. And that is a skill. And if you weren't taught that skill, or it doesn't come natural to you, there are a ton of free helpers that can help you do it. So I would say, please utilize this, because they can really help you.
I love AI because it allows me an opportunity to see live in a moment what I do or say. And to me, I use it very similar to like Grammarly or spell check. And that's what I always tease people. People will say, well, I wrote this. Well, I mean, ChatGPT did, but I entered and I'm like, you don't have to say that anymore. I don't talk to people or write them an email and then say, oh, I mean, I use spell check and Grammarly helped me. I used to teach English or taught other classes. And my teacher said 20 years ago that we don't have to, what is the word? Disclose that. I don't
they
think
feel guilty about it. I do. You don't have to feel guilty about it.
It's a tool.
The only time it works is if you're doing it for school and you have absolutely no comprehension of the material that you've paid tens of thousands, if not 100,000 more to learn. Well, then you should feel guilty because you're cheating yourself.
Yourself. Yeah. I as a teacher, I always taught my students to find tools to help them. I would even tell them it was okay to have somebody else type your paper, because this class that I'm having you write a paper for, the typing is not what you are getting your grade on. But do not let the person fix your grammar unless you have already discussed it with them, so that you know what you've messed up, because you're not learning. It's not going to help me, but I want to get the idea that they got the concept of the knowledge. And then I wouldn't just ask for a paper though. You would create like conversations. So it wasn't so much of the grade on the paper. It was the grade on their understanding to be able to regurgitate the information in a way that made sense to them and they could relay it to others. And that was the thing that would often get them. So I did what I called accidental learning. A lot of my classes were fun, and the kids thought, they're like, oh, we just have a really good time in Andrea's class. And then, here it is. Just the other day, I got a message from a student on LinkedIn that they still utilize some of my skills. And I stopped teaching in 2013. So, it's amazing. So thank you for that. So we were talking about AI and how it can help us with languaging. And that's what I like too, because I'm very down to earth, very blasé about things. I've used that word twice today. See, AI would have reminded me, you've already used that. Don't use it again too much. And that just helps me with conversation as well, because I see what I'm doing, and it makes me mentally then make note of when I'm being repetitive in a word, or if there's a different way I should relate information, depending on where I'm at. How I talk in here is a little differently than I might talk at a business meeting, or definitely differently than how I would talk in a courtroom, because I used to work in law enforcement. So that was a different way of using language. Devin, how about you?
Yeah, I wrote this down as you were talking. I've taught at the university. I do a ton of speaking in high schools, and then a lot of mentoring to business owners. But in the school demographic, I love to say this phrase, and it always pisses off a professor, especially if they don't know me yet. Permission to plagiarize. And so I think that so often in school, we push this idea that you have to have unique thoughts and unique ideas, which actually don't really exist, right? It's all built on something. And so the best practice actually is to figure out like who actually has presented this thing in the best way that you agree with, And then how do you, to your point, have a conversation and present that information in a way that says, I really like this approach, or I like the way this was done. Here's why. And I think if we apply that to best principles in business, like someone out there is already doing better than you in your industry, go figure out who they are and figure out what are they doing, right? How are they approaching content creation? How are they optimizing their business? What are their systems? What's their outreach? What's their marketing? What content is getting virality? Go look. And then when I say permission to plagiarize, that doesn't mean just copy and paste. It means copy it, right? And then internalize it into your business and your approach. But I think so often people are sitting here banging their head against the wall trying to ideate these new ideas. Why don't you lean on AI to help you too, and then bring your thought and position to it? And so I think that's a skill set that's missing. And it's something we work with our kids on all the time. Like if you're stuck, go find someone that's already done the thing and then figure out how to adapt that to whatever your project or thing you're trying to do is.
I love that. I like to build upon it. I like to find out, what did they do right? What did they do wrong? And how could it be better? So what I do for for the one company right now, the other day, we were working on some projects and I was hearing a missing, and that allows me to go from one lane to another. So I appreciate that, Devin, because I don't work in one lane. Although I do publicity and although I do business development, it's about being in between those lanes and be able to cross them. That allows that where I need to look at models and then I see what's missing in their models, because they're a company that's rapidly expanding and growing. It's separated from another company. And so we need to look at what was wrong with that other company and also what was right with what they left, but on who they want to become. If we don't look for the parts that are missing to help them expand and grow by looking at other, it may be a totally different field. I've helped one company once where we were looking at plumbing instead of, like business development in a totally different area. And they were like, what? But that helps. So how have you guys done that? Jennifer, you were starting to speak. How finish what you wanted to say. And then let's talk about how you've taken from other areas to apply to other areas. Because I know I'm not the only one. I'm just using that as an example.
No, it's true. And I would say there is a great fine line between going with what someone else has done and then not working and doing your purpose, right? So there's this happy medium in between that. So you want to use established systems and protocols, and you have to look at the numbers. So you have to be able to track your numbers effectively, because in business or in anything, you're really not competing against the guy next door. Even if you're doing the same thing, you're competing against how good you can do in any given month. So what can we do? Because you're not the guy next door. Now, but I only work with service-based industries. So for me, in who I work with, whether you're a plumber or a painter or a doctor, I work with a lot of healthcare, it is they're coming for you, like the service that you're bringing to someone. And that's all very much, when they come in, who are the people that I'm going to be working with? I've got to be coming in and seeing them all the time. What are they providing as a service? So you're competing consistently against yourself, but you need your numbers. And so if I ask you your goal, what's your goal? And you say, my goal is to have everyone love, want flowers in their home and to love having flowers. Then my second thing is, great. How do you track that? Well, okay, you have to be able to sign a number, something you can track. Or I just want people to love me as a doctor. Well, how do you track that? There's referrals, there's 5-star reviews, there's your income. There's a bunch of ways you can track that. So you need to track to that. And then each month you want to see if you can beat it. And just start putting little things in place. It doesn't have to be massive. You're just competing each month to do a little bit more. And if you have that mindset, you're going to get to your big goal so much quicker than you would anything else. So it's really, it's not as hard as you think it is if you follow the basics and the foundations for it.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Devin?
Yeah, I'm gonna give two. This is great. If you don't measure it, you can't optimize it. So Jennifer, that's something I tell everyone all the time. And it doesn't matter what the measurement is. If the measurement's 1 today, well, then it can be 2 tomorrow. But if you have no idea, right? So we play in the referral connection space. And so it's like, well, how many referrals are you getting? I have no clue. How big's your database? No clue. How active is your database? No clue. What's your open rate? No clue. Well, we can't optimize anything until we have a baseline with which to work from. And so in all areas of your business, if you don't measure it, you can't optimize it. And then even with team management, so taking this a level further, if you want to remove emotion from your management, you have to have KPIs for everything, because then we're just talking strictly about numbers, which are non-emotional. The other side, Andrea, getting back to what you were saying, is you have to get outside your industry. I was just at a real estate mortgage insurance conference, and listening to the speakers, it was so fascinating because they're so stuck in what that industry teaches. And I was looking around the room going, man, you guys are missing so much. You guys are missing so much when it comes to AI implementation, when it comes to systemization, tools, resources, because you're so stuck in what people are building for your industry. You're missing the fact that other industries have already solved these problems. Like a decade ago, they solved half these problems. So you've got to really take a moment to either plug into a mastermind, a community, somewhere, a boardroom that gets you exposure to other industries, because they've probably already solved the thing that you're doing. And a lot of people say, yeah, and we've all heard this. I'm sure, right? But my business is different. No, it's not. 80% of business is identical. 20% might be industry. That's debatable, but you've got to get outside your industry, because there's probably solutions out there that you have no idea exist because you're so stuck inside of your little silo.
Absolutely agree. And I'm going to tell you, to any of my healthcare people that are watching right now on the lot on this, absolutely. Because healthcare is a slow adapter. Legal, it's a slow adapter. And those industries are getting hammered right now because they've been slow adapters, and they've self-insulated to the way they have. I absolutely agree with you.
I see healthcare similar to teaching, working with both industries. There have been so many rigid rules about, and yes, I get it. There's HIPAA. Yes, I get it. We need to have peer-reviewed information. However, if you wait for me to get you peer-reviewed information and education, we've already surpassed it. It's a long time gone. And then in healthcare, waiting for peer reviewed. Yes, you want to be mindful of the information, but you can still be looking and using tools. You don't have to. It's almost like you have to FDA approve, an AI tool before you'll use it in a healthcare practice. And I'm like, this is not going to hurt people. This is just helping you read an email faster. This is just being able to have this person talk to this person faster. So there are ways that we can address it. We can look at the HIPAA rule. It'll happen, And so I get it. It's this fear of that's been there a long time. The financial industry is that way as well. There's a lot of fear base behind that. You're nodding your head, Devin?
Yeah, it's also true. I was going to go to finance because we do a lot in the finance space.
Oh, well, that was the perfect setup.
Yeah. There's a lot of this idea of, compliance won't let me, or the industry doesn't do that, or like there's all these beliefs, right? And if you keep saying them to yourself, then they're true, right? But in reality, they're not. But it's an excuse to not have to do the work, to do the research, to think about the optimization and the systemizing. But the pace of play in the world right now is so fast, right? Exponential growth. There's whole thoughts and books and theories on it. But if your industry or your business is stagnant and you haven't been innovating, you have no choice now, because other people in your industry are starting to wake up, and they will outpace you at a pace that you've never been exposed to. And so if you're in a siloed industry, if you haven't been optimizing your business regularly, you need to. I don't know how else to tell you, you're going to have to start playing.
Yeah. One of our core values here is grow or die. And because in any relationship, in anything, if you're not growing, you're stagnating, and stagnation is the type of death. Even in a romantic relationship, in a partnership, you've just got to keep on growing. And so a lot of this, you clicked on something that's just so important, Devin. You said they're afraid to. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things, it's go back to Who Moved My Cheese, the book, and ask yourself, what would I do if I were not afraid? And go down that rabbit hole, because you never want fear to be the person or the entity that are actually making the decisions in your life. You will never get to your divine purpose on this planet right? There is healthy fear. Yes, there is. There's legal considerations in finance or healthcare. I'm not talking about unnecessary, ridiculous risks, but the many people who let fear stop them from healthy, good, and needed risks in their business. You just ask yourself, what would I do if I were not afraid? I would leave this person who speaks to me in a way that I dislike in this abusive relationship. That's what I would do if I was not afraid. Okay, well then let's talk about that.
Then how do we take action to do that?
Yes.
Take action.
Yes, take
action.
Yeah.
I think it's the other part. It's take the action. So I'm going to take action right now. We were just talking about, how we can connect with people that are in different industries. I have a private mastermind. It's called the Wealth and Legacy Alliance. That is for people who are movers and shakers and doers and doners. I'm making up new words right now as I speak. And that want to be with people who get it, and to be able to be in a safe environment. We vet everybody very strictly because we are people who are givers that come into this group. And I want everybody to be able to understand that wealth is beyond just money. Wealth is also relationships and its impact on the world. And if all of those things seem to resonate with you, then reach out to me. I literally put my cell phone number and my email. I'm one of those people. I don't mind putting my cell phone number out because I realize very few people reach out to me, and only the serious people do. So I've never had a problem with it. I've used my number openly all these years, and it's a great way to connect with people. All right, we are getting short on time here, so I want to have some closing comments, but first I want to know how we can reach both of you, and then we'll end on a big fireworks excellent question. So Jennifer, why don't you share how people can reach you?
Just go to superclinicproject.com. And if you see my picture, click on me. I have a lot of freebies. I have a free school. We have a free, a free to try mastermind. And I even do a free session with people. If they were like, well, this is where I want to go. I love brainstorming, so just connect with me. I just love to help people. That's what I'm put on the planet to do. So superclinicproject.com is me. And I have a podcast so you can hear me too.
Yay. And you, Devin?
So Connection Expansion book, if you want to dig into our theories on how to build $1 million network. And then ACES is my school community. It's free. We do Connection Blitz meetings. You can go to Connection Expansion and check it out. We do amazing roundtables, tons of expert interviews, and a lot of free content for what we talked about today. Always add value is my mantra. So there's a ton of free value, which it seems like all of us are providing. So that means we're in the right room with the right people.
And I'm the red carpet connection. So Devin and I just kind of resonate amazingly. And I'm known as the woman with a $15 billion Rolodex. And if you don't know what a Rolodex is, that is like a database of people that I'm connected to. And mine is not just emails. These are people that I actually know and have met in my lifetime. And they're not just blank, individual nobodies. These are somebodies. So reach out to me if you are interested in neuroscience or publicity. I combine both of those and work with elite people to help them really find some really strategic growth in their worlds. All right, so let's end this on a big shebang. What do we need to leave people with? Like the best, let's give them the best. Those people who waited, let's give them something really meaty. Devin, why don't we start with you? You've got this $1 million connection that you're talking about, with everyone. Or maybe there's another thing that's really for you. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so my challenge to everybody is every person you meet with, what 3 connections can you make for them? It really changes the way you approach meetings because you have to learn enough about them to do the 3 E's. You have to be able to edify them, why they're amazing, endorse them, meaning you can validate their skill and expertise, and explain why you're making connections. If you approach every meeting with this idea of how do I make 3 connections to this person, it's going to really challenge you to approach meetings different, and it's going to challenge you to re-engage your current database, your current contact list, because guess what? You got to find people in there to connect. That activity alone is going to start unlocking the potential inside your network. So make 3 connections for the last person you met. Let's see how hard it is, and let's see what happens when you do it.
I love it. And then I just want to make a shift. You'll see how easy it is because you thought it was hard, but now it's easy. So, and Jennifer?
I would say I would go back to ask yourself, what would you do if you were not afraid? And purposely say, I'm not going to let fear take over any of my decisions in my business. And then start tracking your numbers. Take a goal, assign a number to that, and start tracking to it, and then just compete against yourself. The quicker you start to do that and not allow fear and then the numbers, because when you look at the numbers and say, well, the numbers tell me this, then it makes business and it makes what you're doing just so much easier, because it takes that emotional should I, shouldn't I kind of out of it. The numbers are already telling you what you should do. So once you can start doing that, you can literally do that today. And within a couple of weeks, you'll feel like you're in a completely different place and mindset. So what would you do if you're not afraid and track your numbers?
Absolutely wonderful. And along that line, I want people to get involved in masterminds, multiple ones, because when you're around people, you're more likely to meet more people. I always say, people who always say like, oh, I want to do more business, and the only business they have is with the pizza guy bringing them a pizza. That you're not going to get much leads that way. You've got to be with people. So whether I'd say in person and online, do both. Those are good tools. And if you've invested someone to coach, which I think you should, and more than one coach, because there's different areas of life that we do, but you need to be honest with them with everything, and you need to engage them with everything. For example, the things that I do within a company, if I'm doing publicity and business expansion for you, but I don't know about what your finances are doing or what your team is doing or your systemization, that is going to lock up the ability for me to have things happen for you, because you may not be able to be ready. You want this launch, and if I do the launch and you don't have all this ready, then it's not going to work. And then you're going to say, well, your publicity didn't work. It's not that my publicity didn't work. It's that everything else needs to align with it. So you got to increase everything. And if you have a financial consultant, be honest with them. I have met so many businesses and seen and witnessed so many things in my world where people aren't honest with their financial CFOs and freaking tell them if you've got a problem. A problem does not, it's not failure. It just is feedback to get information so that you can make it right. So anything else you guys want to say? Or are we out?
No, that was
We're
good.
out. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back on here next week at 11 a.m. Eastern time. I'm Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller, and I usually co-host with Sifu Rafael Gomez, and this is Business Prowess. Bye now. Well, I ended it, but it didn't end. So we're still here trying to leave.